I desperately, desperately want this to be fact because this is the kind of signage that I can get behind.
Welcome to Experience Points, presented by our friends at Avtex who transform customer experience through CX design and orchestration. On Experience Points, contestants earn points by answering customer experience questions and share their insights on how to make your interactions remarkable. Those points turn into dollars for the charity of their choosing. I'm Joey Coleman.
And I'm Dan Gingiss, and we'd love to introduce you to today's contestant.
He is the man, the legend, a good friend and mentor of both of your Experience Points hosts, a New York Times best-selling author of 6 books, a member of the National Speakers Association Hall of Fame, a 7th-generation entrepreneur, and the founder of not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 multi-million-dollar companies, Mr. Jay Baer. Welcome, sir.
Dan, Joey, fantastic to be here. Thanks for having me on. I could have worn the same suit for sort of a continuity year of the show, but I'll wear blue if that's how it rolls. I'm delighted to be here. I love the premise of this program.
Well, you know, Jay, we are thrilled to have you on the show today, and you're going to be playing for a special charity. Could you tell us who you've decided to play for and why you're excited to play for them?
I am playing for the Joey Coleman Social Media Education Foundation.
That's a good one, Jay.
It's a limited edition charity.
That's an inside joke, friends, because Dan and Jay are both prolific on social media. Joey is not. So thank you. I will happily accept any donations to the Joey Coleman remedial social media.
Remedial Twitter boot camp, for sure. No, I am playing for the Boys and Girls Club of Bloomington right here in Bloomington, Indiana, an organization that I support and do some work for. My stepdad, actually, before he passed away, was a very big Boys and Girls Club supporter. In fact, he grew up in a Boys and Girls Club as a young man and then ended up working there as an advisor to the kids for many, many years. So Boys and Girls Club have always been a real important organization for my family, and especially now during the pandemic when people have less ties to school, right? People are online school, etc. Having that safe place to go, that comforting, nurturing place to go after school or even during the day now is really, really important. So support your local Boys and Girls Club, folks.
Outstanding. That is a fantastic cause, Jay. So now that we know who you're playing for, let's get into the game. Today we're going to be playing Fake or Fact.
In Fake or Fact, examine 3 similar experiences. Some are real, some are not. Your task is to determine the fake from the fact. Each experience correctly detected is worth 100 points. 3 correct answers will earn you 200 bonus points, for a possible score of 500 points.
Are you ready to get started?
Well, which is it this time?
Exactly. No hints early on, my friend. No hints early on. We think
Understood.
You've got
Okay.
the ability.
All right, I'm ready.
All right, Jay. In many ways, signs outside of a business are one of the oldest forms of marketing, and yet they're still in use today. We're going to present 3 examples of signs and ask you which ones are real and which ones are fake. The first is outside of a gelato shop. It says, "Our gelato will never give you up, let you down, run around, but it will desert you." The second is outside of a home services company that says, "Septic tanks pumped, swimming pools filled, not same truck." And the third one is outside of a fishing charter company, and it says, "Let us help you hook up." So, Jay, we're going to go through each one of them and ask you whether you think they are fake or fact. Let's go back to the first one. It's outside of a gelato shop. "Our gelato will never give you up, let you down, run around, but it will desert you."
All right, so this seems plausible for sure, but the syntax is somewhat tortured. It also feels very long. Frankly, it feels like something Joey Coleman would have written. So I'm going to say
personal abuse. I'm sorry.
I'm going to say that one is fake. I'm going to say fake.
All right. Well, let's look and see if you're correct, Jay.
Jay, you've been rickrolled, brother. It is fact.
No.
It is
no.
a real sign.
But what about the kids? The money for the kids.
Oh, it hurts. See, I think that was the universe getting you for the snarky remarks thus far. The universe is not your fan.
Okay,
no.
I like gelato, and I think that's clear given this camera angle. But I purposely would not eat gelato there.
You would be offended by being...
My mom is an English teacher. I've written 6 books. I'm like, no, can't do it. Hanging participle. Can't do it.
I love it.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's okay, Jay. Let's
where do we know where that is so I can make sure to not eat gelato there?
I think it's in Washington, right?
Yeah, we believe it's in
DC.
Washington, D.C. Yeah, Dolcezza Gelato in Washington, D.C.
Also, the 3 Z's in the middle. Is it sleepy gelato? Is it somnambulant in some way?
It keeps you excited, you know?
Yeah.
Very, understand. Very complicated. Hey, let's just wipe the gelato off our chin and move to the next question, because we got to make some money for the kids. This is outside of a home services company. Septic tanks pumped, swimming pools filled, not same truck. Syntax is better on this one, I think.
It is. I feel like I have seen this somewhere before. I desperately want this to be fact, because this is the kind of signage that I can get behind, and the kind of service business, frankly. I'm going to say that this was fact.
All right. Well, I desperately want you to be right, and you are right, Mr.
Yes.
And in fact, we're going to give you the phone number. You just have to guess the area code, and you can call these guys up.
Pause the show.
If you ever need them.
Just a second. I'm going to see what happens.
All right. Great job. So finally, we have a fishing charter company, and their sign says, "Let us help you hook up."
I mean, look, I was just fishing night before last, caught 6 fish. Fishing is improving here in the late summer. I don't fish in this blazer, but I could, I suppose. I feel like I also grew up in a lake town, so I feel like I have been experienced with all of the fish hook charter punnery that exists. This has to be fact. This has got to be true. It's too easy. It's got to be fact.
So what you're saying then is it's not something that Dan or Joey would have just written up. It has to be fact. Because, I was noticing you were commenting on Joey's ability to create song lyrics.
No, but Joey is an attorney. So the reason I thought Joey wrote the first one is that it's very long and complicated.
Wait a second, Jay.
That's how attorneys get paid.
Let's make sure the audience understands I'm a recovering attorney. The first step's
You
admitting you have a problem.
You pass the bar. You can't just get rid of that, right?
Yeah, you can't deny it now, Joey.
That's very true. We won't make any comments about whether people on this show have passed the bar or whether they walked right in when they went by the bar. No worries. Let's go ahead and do the reveal.
It's fact.
Jay, we made this one up, buddy.
There's no way. There's no way. It's too good. It has to be true. Okay, here's what you do. You need to license that to a chain of fishing charters before this show is over. It's too good. Gentlemen, it's well done. Yes.
Well, Dan gets the credit for that one because Dan was the author of that. Sadly, at this point in the game,
it's too good. It's the best one of the 3. That's the best one.
There you go. Well, Dan, you've got a good career in sign writing ahead of you. This is fantastic.
Going back to the second one, there's a place in my hometown when I grew up, Lake Havasu City, Arizona, and it was called Chicken and Donuts because they had fried chicken and donuts. Not different truck though. So every donut tasted vaguely of fried chicken, and every chicken breast tasted vaguely of donut. But hey, sometimes that's corporate synergy for you.
Jay, awesome. As anybody who's been listening to the game thus far knows, you are a guy who has no problem infusing comedy and entertainment into a business conversation. Could you speak a little bit about the importance of letting your brand spirit come out in your communications? Whether that's a sign that's playful that gets people to stop and laugh, or an email, or your offerings, your product descriptions. Could you just speak a little bit? Because as you pointed out, so many businesses are a little more rigid and structured, and they're afraid to be fun and be creative.
I guess I would say it this way. It doesn't matter what business you're in. It doesn't matter if you're in the gelato business or the septic tank pumping business or the fishing charter business or the customer experience consultancy business. It doesn't matter. You don't have a secret sauce. You think that you've got something special, that you offer something to the marketplace that nobody does, or you have some sort of special price point or deal. You don't. There is no secret sauce. And what really makes the difference between businesses that are adequate and businesses that are exceptional is the fact that customers remember you. You have to give yourself permission to do something different, to act different, to approach things different. That's why I always wear plaid. It's not an accident. It's a strategy. The same reason you would have a sign that somebody would actually take a beat, like, oh yeah, the gelato guys, or oh yeah, the mythical fishing charter, which no longer exists.
Never did.
It is worth the time and investment to differentiate, because you think that your core product and service is a differentiator, and in almost zero cases is it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And, as we know, Jay, signage is just but one way to communicate with customers. And, some companies don't have a physical storefront to display any signage. You wrote a fantastic book called Talk Triggers.
Thank you.
That teaches people how to create experiences that people want to talk about. I'm wondering if you can share maybe an example of a company that used communication in order to create a talk trigger.
Sure, there's lots of examples. Thank you for the kind words. I co-wrote that book with my good friend Daniel Lemon, who's really the brains of the operation.
You're just the looks, right, Jay?
Precisely. Some say. My mom says. Communication is a great way to differentiate, especially because so much communication is so perfunctory and mundane, right? Especially in B2B. People have taken like a vow of sameness. Like, well, we can't do anything interesting because they won't treat us seriously because we sell to other businesses. So, one of my favorite examples, you guys know this story, is from Uber Conference. Okay, so Uber Conference is a free voice over the internet calling service, right? So you can have a conference call, not dissimilar to Zoom, really, totally free. And there are, last time I checked, like 11 different companies that do the exact same thing. I mean, the exact same thing. You couldn't put a thin sliced piece of ham between the product offerings of the companies in this category. However, they have chosen to differentiate based on how they communicate. Very irreverent positioning in the market in general, which certainly makes them stand out. And my favorite piece of their story is that when you show up for a conference call and everybody's waiting for everybody else to get there, there is on-hold music, as we are all familiar with. Their on-hold music, though, is not sort of Kenny G or some other kind of smooth jazz. It is, in fact, a very hilarious song about the vagaries and inconsistencies of waiting on hold. And the song's actually written by their CEO, by the way. And everybody laughs and laughs and laughs. And right now, you could pause this show and go to Twitter and type in Uber Conference plus on hold, and you will see dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of examples of customers saying things almost exactly like this. These guys do the same thing everybody else does, but I use this service because the on-hold music is so funny.
And sometimes that's all it takes.
Absolutely.
That's all it takes.
Absolutely. And I think that makes sense logically, right? That we want to stand out, that we want to differentiate. So many companies focus on that. Some of our viewers and listeners, Jay, are maybe in a position in the organization where they can't push the company too far. They're maybe not in the leadership position. Could you speak a little bit to any suggestions for the person listening or watching us today who says, I want my brand to have more of a personality. We want to get it out there. I'm not sure where to start, or I'm not sure how to convince the other people in the management team who think that we are actually different from the competition when I know that we're not. Any thoughts on how they might go about doing that?
Well, sometimes you can differentiate not so much at the corporate level, but because of the collective actions of the employees. So if I talk about Southwest Airlines, for example, Southwest has, generally speaking, a good brand positioning. People who fly Southwest are very loyal to that brand. And if you look at their communications, they're slightly irreverent, but they're not Geico, right? I mean, they're slightly off-center, perhaps not as buttoned up as some of the others in the airline business. But what makes the spirit of that brand is not really the corporate communication. It's that they give the individual team members in that organization permission. They give them license. In fact, they screen for it, the ability to work without a script, to do things spontaneously, informally, and say, just have fun, just be yourself, communicate with people as human beings, and it makes a colossal difference. So that's what I would say, Joey, is, yeah, maybe you don't want to sit down with a board and say, hey, let's, become more irreverent or differentiated, but you can give your team members permission to deal with the public as human beings. And that will go a long way to differentiate you as well, because frankly, most companies don't do that.
Outstanding. So, Joey, tell us how Jay did playing fact or fake.
Well, in this game, correct answers are worth 100 points. And Jay answered one of the questions correctly, which means he earned 100 points. Now, those 100 points convert to dollars, which means Jay earned a $100 donation to the Boys and Girls Club of Bloomington. Congratulations, Jay.
I feel like I cost the Boys and Girls Club of Bloomington $400, but I appreciate how you positioned it. Thank you, Joey.
Well, don't worry, Jay, because you're going to be back to play some more games with us. That concludes this episode of Experience Points. But check out more games with Jay and our other celebrity contestants at experiencepointsgame.com. Again, that's experiencepointsgame.com. We'll see you soon for more examples of remarkable customer experiences here at Experience Points, presented by Avtex.
Mike, I really enjoyed that one. That was it was good. It was great to listen to. I love the idea of the concept of the brand personality being an integral part of the experience. I also like the idea of injecting humor into that brand personality where it's appropriate. Humor does a lot of things for us, and especially in how we think and how we react and how we evaluate things. Humor, when we laugh, releases endorphins, and it makes us think a little bit more clear, and it actually helps us think more creativity. But I think one of the key things here is it needs to be appropriate, and it also needs to be authentic. And Mike, you lead our healthcare practice, so I don't necessarily know if I want a doctor telling me jokes before my knee replacement surgery.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And no doubt that humor is one way that you can make the engagement or the interaction more memorable, but it has to really align with the brand and what the consumer's expectations are of that brand. And so to use healthcare as an example, there are not as many opportunities as some other industries to infuse humor into your approach, but certainly you can incorporate tools that make the consumer or customer or patient feel more at ease, reduce their anxiety, which will naturally lead to a better experience.